Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630.
WMAL. It's 8:07 on WMAL, and I'm very excited to have with us today my good friend Juan Williams. He is an author of a new book, Muzzled, The Assault on Honest Debate, and he's a big star. He's been everywhere talking about his book.
I feel like I'm watching a Monday edition of the O'Reilly Factor. That's what I feel like. I got Juan Williams on one side.
Does that mean you're O'Reilly?
No. On no level.
Stuck between Juan and me.
I wouldn't even begin to even try to be Bill O'Reilly.
People always ask me about Juan and me and whether we're like, well, how do you deal with Juan Williams? Because we disagree on the air, but we are actually very friendly off the air.
Not only that, I've written a book here, and in the book, the star, to my mind, is Mary Catherine Ham.
Really?
Because what happens is I get into an argument with Bill O'Reilly about the whole idea of Muslims attacked us on 9/11, and my saying, well, I think we should exercise some care because we have to be sure that we're not encouraging people to do things like burn the Koran or cut a cab driver's throat, etc. And O'Reilly is like, I'm tired of being careful in my language. I'm just going to say what's going on with terrorists in this world and Muslims and the connection between radical Islam and terrorism. And Mary Catherine Ham says, wait a second, conservatives also have an interest in developing a middle-range political tolerant group in the Middle East among Arabs, and we have to be careful and encouraging on that level. And I thought, talk about evidence of sophisticated, nuanced debate. And people always say, oh, it never happened.
Oh, Juan.
I thought it was terrific.
Well, sophisticated, nuanced debate is what people who listen to this program have come to expect from Mary Catherine Ham.
Well, I think she can be pretty... and let me tell you something. As the other end of the hammer, she can deliver the hammer.
Well, it's always nice to be
Hammer.
on with Juan because there are people you can go on TV with and you're not sure if they're just going to give you talking points or they're going to make up stuff and throw it at you. And Juan and I have a good relationship because we don't do that to each other.
Let me mention that Juan's going to be with us through about 8:30 this morning. And he's agreed to take some calls, so you want to get in on the line and get set up for your question for Juan Williams. It's 1-888-630-WMAL, 1-888-630-9625. If you want to just send us a comment, you can text the word feedback to 68683. We got all this social media stuff figured out, Juan.
Nice.
Okay, the name of the book is called Muzzled, The Assault on Honest Debate, and you have some personal experience in this regard.
Well, I was fired by NPR for having said on O'Reilly's show with Mary Catherine Ham there that, in fact, if I'm getting on a plane and I see people who are dressed in Muslim garb, to my mind identifying themselves first and foremost as Muslims, I have nervousness. I get anxious, Brian. I'm not a wimp or something. I'm just telling you in the aftermath of 9/11, that's my emotional experience. Now, that was taken then by the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, and then by NPR as evidence that I am some kind of bigot. I just find this crazy. I don't think I'm gonna swear to you it's not true, Brian. You know me personally.
I know you very well.
And I remember when I was being fired, it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was done by a phone call, and I said, can I come in and talk about this? Did you hear the whole context of the discussion? Mary Catherine is my witness. She was there. She was live with it, so she knows exactly what happened, because I was making an argument in favor of religious tolerance.
Right.
And I was trying to build a bridge of honesty with Bill O'Reilly by saying, look, I understand what you're talking about, but we don't leap to judgments about Timothy McVeigh or Westboro Baptist Church and then condemn all Christians. Let's not condemn all Muslims. And somehow I got labeled as bigot and thrown out the door at NPR.
So you use that as sort of a beginning place for this discussion about how many times the debate is choked off in this country.
Oh, my gosh. And, this is one of the more interesting things. This horrible thing happens to me. I say horrible because emotionally it's wrenching to get fired and then labeled in public. I mean, the president of NPR went on the air and said I was mentally, whatever Juan Williams said should be between him and his psychiatrist or his publicist. Like, I'm infantile and I can't speak for myself. Right. So it was just a very difficult thing. But the key here, Brian, is almost immediately there was a response left and right. People saying to me, oh, I've had the same experience. I've had the same anxiety. And there's so much I can't say in this country. If I think, there's something wrong, someone will say, oh, you know what? You two are a bigot, or you're a racist, or you're a crazy left-winger, or you're a crazy right-winger, or you're one of these feminists. you can't say much anymore without somebody saying to you, shut up.
We were just talking earlier in this broadcast about what happened yesterday. I mean, remember when the Gabrielle Gifford shooting took place in Tucson, and how there was this outcry by some saying, well, this means no doubt right-wing radio got this guy all riled up, and we need to tone down the rhetoric in this country, and and no evidence that actually that was the case. Right. But that was and then yesterday, on a day when Gabrielle Gifford comes back to the House of Representatives and casts that vote, a very warm and special moment that we all really enjoyed to see. But you have to also point out that the rhetoric in this town was probably at one of its all-time lows.
Oh, yeah, given what was going on inside the Democratic caucus room with Vice President Biden. And he engaged, too, in calling the Tea Party folks terrorists.
Yeah. I have a question. So the other day, I actually was riding down the road. I was listening to NPR, and I was listening to you talk on NPR about your book, about the experience on NPR, in which I was the co-star. By the way, that's my most watched YouTube clip, and I'm not saying anything. I'm just like, But
are you sure?
No, I talked a little bit. I think it is one of my most watched YouTube clips. Okay. But it was sort of a surreal experience. But I wonder what it's like for you to talk to NPR about this experience, and how have your experiences been with them on the radio since then?
Well, it's just been non-existent. And in fact, what you saw there, this is a backstory here, is that I said to an interviewer, they're not having me on. They won't have me on any of their shows. Out of the main headquarters, Diane Rehm had me on her show. Right. But so that's the local station. But none of the big NPR shows would have me on. Subsequently, then the publicist for this book gets a call and says that a reporter wants to interview about the controversy. So that's the way they dealt with it. And so rather than have a full-throated interview, face to face, I went to see the reporter. He takes a cut of what I say and then puts it in with everybody else with what they have to say. But for me, at least, there was something. But this really, I think, speaks to my heart, which is I'm always about reconciliation. I was trying to get back with them. I don't think they're about reconciliation.
Well, we're taking your calls this morning for Juan Williams, 1-888-630-WMAL, 1-888-630-9625. Text the word feedback to 68683.
WMAL, we're here with Juan Williams. And Juan, you've been doing a lot of radio, probably a lot of conservative talk radio. I find when I go out in the country, people always say, give him an attaboy for me.
That's nice.
What's your reception been like on conservative stations in talking about this book?
Oh, you know what? People are welcoming me, and I think in part because, and this is what I was trying to say to Brian earlier, is that this story is way beyond me.
Right.
I mean, it hurt me. I was the one that got kicked and fired and demeaned in public, but everybody else said, this is a big story, and for conservative talk radio, goes back to what Brian Wilson was saying about what happened after Gabby Giffords got shot, that there is this instinct on the part of the left to blame people who are representing a conservative point of view and suggest somehow that they are inspiring violence, that they're racist, that they are misogynistic, that they're rude, that they're out of control. Just simply provocateurs. In fact, in the book, I have a chapter about people who do stir the pot unnecessarily. But that is not consistent with what I hear here in the mornings. I mean, and it's not consistent with most conservative talk radio. Right. And so when I go out, you know what? People are like, well, thank God somebody is standing up and speaking back to this, and I am not a doctrinaire conservative. So they're saying, well, that's really different.
Right.
Let's take a couple more calls if we could. Let's go to Jeff in Alexandria. What do you say, Jeff? You're on line one?
Hey, good morning, Brian, Mary Catherine, and Juan. You guys are my heroes, and I love listening to you every morning. But I want to take issue with one thing here today, and that's the hypocrisy I see with the birther issue. I mean, you're basically talking about muzzling people. And this issue has been just completely muzzled by the editors at all the major conservative blogs and organizations. And I don't understand it, because it is the elephant in the room.
All right, Jeff in Alexandria, what do you think about that, Juan? I mean, the birther issue has been, there have been those who've said...
we've talked about it a lot.
I know, I think we've talked about it a lot, but there are some who believe that we just haven't, that they don't believe we've gotten to the truth on the matter.
I ran into a woman in Denver this weekend, and she said to me the same thing. She said, why do you go on about everything but the birther issue? Because that birth certificate is a fraud. It's a phony. And I'm like, wow, I just thought we had gone through this exhaustively. The whole country was obsessed with it. and it was proven that it was a genuine birth certificate, I don't know what else you can do at this point.